This week on Full Circle Florida, big tech bargain. AI data centers steering up controversy in towns like Fort Meade. They suck up the water, they jack up the power bills, but they pump in the money and the jobs. Big tech, riches versus resource drains. Lawmakers in Tallahassee scrambling to regulate it all before it's too late. Our panel this week, Michael Paluska with new reporting and political insight from Dr. Susan McManus. ICE and elections. Will President Trump send agents to the midterm polls? Fear or fact? And where is the line between vetting votes and intimidation? Oil and war. Gas prices climbing no matter what happens with Iran. How high and how fast? This week, our oil expert with a reality check on what you're about to pay at the pump. And for whom the tariffs toll, Trump's trade war 1 year in, the Supreme Court decision, corporate confusion, and the question, is anyone winning? Full Circle Florida starts now. Let's get right into it. He's a veteran reporter for Tampa Bay 28 who focuses on environmental issues and stories. Michael Paluska on the panel here with us this week. And of course, our political analyst and our voice of reason, Dr. Susan McManus. Okay, what's the real deal? It sounds like a devil's bargain with these AI data centers. And I get it. I mean, they can pump in the money, they can pump in the cash and the jobs, but at what cost? And that's the question it seems like we're confronting here in Florida is, what do you get in return for this? Because they guzzle water like there's no tomorrow. They do jack up everyone's utility bills, but a town like Fort Meade and some of these other towns could use the extra revenue.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, Citrus County has one of the lowest unemployment rates in our area. It's more than highest unemployment rates in our area, more than 7%. So they could really benefit from a tech company coming in because there's hundreds of tech jobs that are created, right? But when you look at a data center, the experts I've talked to say you have this massive footprint, but you don't need a ton of people in there to operate it. Maybe a small group of like 15 people. So once it's gone, the construction jobs go away. So then you got to figure out what resources, as you mentioned, is it guzzling? Electricity, water, some use millions of gallons of water per day. In the one in Citrus County, and you mentioned Fort Meade, they're concerned about water too, but in Citrus County, one of them is could be built in a spring watershed, Kings Bay, right next to Crystal River. That could be disastrous.
And I know that this seemed like, Susan, it kind of came out of nowhere. Obviously, we've known about artificial intelligence. We've been talking about it almost nonstop for the last couple of years. But the actual, I mean, I didn't realize until I started reading about it that it takes up a lot of water. And now we're in the middle of this drought here in Florida.
Yes, and the real pushback is coming at the local level. And even the governor is in favor of letting local governments make decisions about whether to bring one of these big centers in or not. But let me tell you, in Fort Meade and other places and across the country where the public's gotten involved, they get involved quick, and local officials who are elected locally, the citizens have a lot of clout. And in our state, they're also worried, people who live in these pristine areas, we don't want any more growth. Florida's already getting too packed. We're losing old Florida. There's that side of it as well.
Michael, you went to Citrus County this week to profile the situation there.
Yeah.
Let's run a clip of your story and listen in.
We want to bring them here on our terms.
You're willing to hold their feet to the fire, not see those dollars and cents they're throwing at you and say, if it's not good for this community, we're walking away?
100%, 100%. This is too special a place to let one single entity diminish what makes Crystal River and Citrus County so special.
All right, so the question is, how do you regulate this, and is it too late, the Pandora's box, so to speak? So I know Tallahassee's talking about this very thing right now, Susan. Is it too late to put this back in the box, or can they get out ahead of this?
There's two versions that are being considered right now. One is very different from the other. The Senate has one that's more in sync with local control, whereas the House version is more tuned in to the Trump argument, which is this needs to be a national kind of decision making as opposed to leaving it to the states or localities. So we shall see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, Trump versus the states on this. I mean, because the argument from the president is if we're not all on the same page on how this goes down, we're going to be at a competitive disadvantage compared to, say, China, versus 50 states, 50 laboratories doing it their own way.
Well, I think the legislation in Tally is more of like a backstop. Depending on what gets passed, it's more of a backstop to what locals might be able to do, because Commissioner Jeff Kennard with Citrus County told me it is all hyper-local. It is at the local level. I mean, I don't know what laws they can pass, but when you go down to these local micro rezoning ordinances, like the one in Citrus where it's 800 acres, they want to put data center utilities, That's going to be the locals, the state and the federal government. They're not going to be able to come in and out-govern those areas. I mean, never say never, right?
Yeah.
But
Well, that
to
makes
a bigger,
sense.
to a bigger issue, this is a classic example of a brand new technology that everybody knows is not going away.
Right.
But it's going to cost a lot up front. So the real question is long-term gain, but
Yeah.
short-term pain.
What
And
do we-
that's what you're seeing, the short-term pain kicking in at the local level.
And I think that's what everyone should be asking. What are we getting out of this other than just convenience in terms of like I can order something right now or I can ask a question? I mean, and you know, what is the real cost?
well,
I
I
mean, it's,
sat down with an expert.
Yeah.
And he said that everything will be AI. Literally everything. We're at maybe 1% of this AI revolution a couple of years in, right? He said he's going to have a workflow where he sits down and he has AI, talk to AI, talk to AI, talk to AI, and bring it back to him. You're going to have AI ordering food, everything. So they need to build these because AI is going to.
But then you also have to worry about if you eliminate all these jobs,
Right.
what are we doing in terms of job preparation of people whose jobs are going to be eliminated by AI?
And
All right.
robots don't spend money.
to be continued. Thank you so much for stopping by and helping us make sense of all of this. Next on Full Circle Florida, ICE and elections. Will the president send agents to the midterm polls? And where is the line between voter validation and intimidation? Next. Let me paint you a picture of two competing narratives. One says ICE is ridding our country of murderers, rapists, and drug dealers. The other says mass agents with guns are pulling mothers out of their cars, ripping kids away from parents, and shooting U.S. citizens on the streets. Those two versions of reality could be driving voters to the polls come November during the midterms. The question is, will ICE be there too? Here's my conversation with political expert Dr. Bo Kabbalah. President Trump has suggested the federal government should take over voting in certain places. Democrats are warning that ICE could end up showing up at polling sites come October, November. Is that a legitimate threat, or is that a political storyline that's getting ahead of the facts and is based on fear, not reality?
So let me say, and I appreciate how Carolyn Levitt, the White House press secretary, has emphasized the president has no formal plan to do anything like that. Now, there are perception issues with elections and election integrity. They're related to the rule of law. We can definitely get into those. Let me say, as a baseline, I think there's broad recognition on the part of this administration and others. At the end of the day, states are constitutionally responsible for running elections. Election administration is a state responsibility. Now, the Constitution does allow for some nationalization, but we'd have to be careful there and go step by step.
You know, I used to think, oh, you know, intimidation at polling sites, that's not really a thing. That doesn't happen to really anyone. And then I actually went, I remember I voted, it was a midterm election here in Tampa. I'm born and raised here. And I voted a certain way on one particular amendment item, and I gave it to the person who scanned it. She looked at it, this is a pollster, this is a volunteer, whatever, and she said, oh, well, I guess your taxes are gonna go up. And then she scanned it. And obviously I'd already voted, but I'm thinking to myself, that's an interesting thing to say to somebody. So maybe it does happen, you know, and it doesn't take much to intimidate people. So if immigration enforcement, you know, is even near a polling place, should there be a buffer zone? Because it doesn't take much to intimidate certain people to say, you know what, it's not worth it. I'm not even going to bother voting. And then you are impacting things.
Yes, and that's an incredible story, by the way. That's why I think it's so important. The 1965 Voting Rights Act, federal legislation, does include specific provisions that are addressing that issue of voter intimidation. It's not allowed. State by state, most states do not allow law enforcement to be near a polling place. So yes, has there been a movement state by state since the 2020 election to allow for more poll watchers? Well, that's happened state by state. And to be clear, that's typically not law enforcement. So let me say, in parallel to your concerns about voter intimidation, you know, there's a worry that people have about our elections and are they secure? Could we take reasonable steps to make them more secure? And I would just say in that context, we recognize states have authority here And then if we wanted to change anything, the Constitution says we'd have to go through Congress.
Well, it's an interesting topic. And Dr. Bo Kabbalah, we appreciate you as always stopping by to share your insight and expertise. Thank you so much. Next on Full Circle Florida, oil, war, and tariffs. Welcome back. There's a scene in the oil movie There Will Be Blood where Daniel Day-Lewis's character screams at his rival, "I drink your milkshake, I drink it up." His raw confession of cutthroat ambition. That's the oil game in a nutshell. Geopolitics, OPEC, refineries, all fighting. And we pay the price ultimately at the pump. Whether it's Iran heating up or just summer road trips, the milkshake is about to get a little more expensive. Energy expert Jay Young explains why. Jay, thanks so much for stopping by. Why are gas prices rising now? Is this seasonal with the summer blend coming up, or is this more of a global risk and the calculations that go into that via Iran and a possible conflict there that could interrupt supply?
We'll see prices go up, but what happens is when the prices come down, not as many people continue to drill, and then all of a sudden when we need oil, which will be the summertime when people start driving on vacation, and we don't have it, that's when prices will go back up. So oil and gas companies, they've been to the movie before, right? It's like a rerun, and it's like, okay, well, we don't drill, and then prices go up, but I mean, what we're doing at King Operating is we're doing everything in our power to get as many rigs drilling for oil and gas right now as we can, because we do feel like prices are going to go up, and if they do, we're going to drill now at cheaper prices.
It's all about finding that sweet spot. So when you talk about how quickly prices could climb and when drivers would feel it the most at the pump, is this a few weeks or a few months? And would it phase up, or would you suddenly see, like right now in Florida, it's $2.99. Would we go to $3.99 like in 10 days?
Yeah, it matters how big if we do bomb and we go into an all-out, war, if you will, Department of War says we're in 100%. It could go to $3.99 overnight, literally. Well, within a week, few days, a week, it could, because then everybody's going to be doing everything they can to grab as much oil as they can. We produce 13 million barrels of oil in the United States. We produce 13. We consume over 20. So we're still deficit 7 million barrels. Which means we got to go overseas to get it, whether it's Canada, Mexico, Iran, Iraq, OPEC, wherever.
Yeah, and Iran's oil supply and that region, which would react as well, is such a key part of our supply on the global market, at least. When we, explain something to me, because President Trump, I mean, obviously, part of his job is advertising his accomplishments. He did that during the State of the Union address this week. But he keeps saying, he'll cite like gas in Iowa somewhere as like $1.99. But and kind of say as if that's sort of the general price in this country. But as I do, I mean, here in Florida, it's $2.99. It might go down to $2.79, but then like the very next day, it's right back up to $2.99. How much elasticity is there, in terms of prices coming down, or is $2.99 about as good as we can expect it to be in Florida, at least?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I can only give you my belief and what I feel, and I feel like that we're at the low. Oil prices aren't going to 40. They're not going to 50. They'll stay right here or go a little bit further down. You may see some, 5%, 10% less, but you may get back to 280. I don't see it going down any further, and the reason why is because when you quit drilling for oil in the United States, when rig count goes from 600 to 500. You literally take 30% of the rigs off the market. We're not drilling for it. And when we're not drilling for it and we need it, prices are going to go up. Not down, they go up. The wells that are already online, that's the shale wells, I say shale, S-H-A-L-E wells, what they do is they decline so rapidly the first year. So you got two things against you. I mean, number one, we're not drilling for oil and gas. Well, I guess there's three things, right? Number one, we're not drilling for oil and gas in the United States. Number two, the wells that are online decline rapidly. So that's going to take production off. And number three, demand's going nowhere. You know, I mean, yeah, I know Elon Musk and Tesla stocks been moving up here lately and all this, but we're not going to electric cars anytime soon. No. It's not going to take over. So our demand for oil and gas will continue to go up.
The liquid that runs the world. Jay Young, thank you for helping us manage expectations in the real world. Appreciate it, sir. Thank you. We move next here to Trump's trade wars. Are they protecting American jobs or just taxing your wallet? Steve Cotton joins me with the question, for whom the tariffs toll? Help me understand. Are we actually going to see any of those billions of dollars that have already been paid out in tariffs refunded, or is the Supreme Court ruling, you know, essentially empty words with no real cash coming back to importers or to consumers? It's, you know, you kind of are left wondering here, what have I been paying extra for in the last year?
Well, it's an excellent question, and I think unfortunately the companies will not see refunds anytime soon. There are over 300,000 U.S. companies that paid tariffs and over 30 memorandums of understanding with our trading partners that now apparently have no legal basis. I don't think we're going to see tariffs or refunds coming back very soon. And even if we do, it's going to be a long, protracted, multi-year process.
How much more expensive is the new 15% global tariff that President Trump said he was going to impose? How much more expensive is that compared to the old ones that the Supreme Court just killed?
Well, I think in some cases it actually may end up being a slightly lower tariff. There are all kinds of countries, especially in Asia, like India, for example, that have much higher tariff rates. China is another one. So if the lower tariff rate that the Trump administration has sort of announced as a fallback holds, then some of these countries may get a reduction in their tariff rate. But you have to look at tariffs on an individual industry, individual countrywide basis to have any kind of sensible assessment done on the impact. It's really very much a case-by-case situation.
Well, on that note, it's easy to forget why the president started doing this in the first place. Beneath all the headlines, he wanted to even the playing field and make trade fairer for the United States and to spur investment in this country. Is there any evidence that the president's plan has produced results on that end?
I think the president is absolutely correct to pursue this course of action. We've had 30 to 40 years of neglect of American producers and companies and consumers, frankly, where we have allowed our trading partners to really stick it to us on tariffs without responding in any meaningful way. They've also raised non-tariff barriers to our market entry, such as regulations like Japanese rice, for example. Japanese rice producers got the government of Japan to put so much regulation on American rice that you can't even really sell American rice in Japan. But that's an example of the non-tariff barriers that the president's also trying to deal with.
The fight and the struggle for fair trade is not over yet, and it is, make no mistake about it, a global competition. Steve Cotton, thank you so much for your insight. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Paul.
Full Circle Florida continues right after this. Thank you so much for watching us here on Full Circle Florida. We hope you'll join us again next week, and make sure to add our free 24/7 streaming news channel, Tampa Bay 28+. There you'll find the in-depth reports on the stories that matter to you. Have a great week, everyone.